Hey, you big fathead.
What's the big idea?
That's for your swimming pools and your tennis courts and your limousines and your barbecues. That's for making fun of a poor girl who only tried to help you, you big faker.
Before the war, Veronica Lake's one-eyed hairdo established a style that swept the feminine face of the country.
She was 4'11", baby-fine blonde, and arguably the most misunderstood woman Hollywood ever chewed up and spat out. They called her a sex zombie. They called her the bitch. Raymond Chandler, while writing her screenplay, called her Veronica Lake behind her back. And the US government, this is not a joke, this is actual documented federal history, once asked her, personally, to please stop wearing her hair that way, because women in munitions factories were getting their own hair caught in the machines trying to copy her. The peekaboo wave was, briefly, a matter of national security. And that, my friends, is the least scandalous thing about her. If you only have 30 seconds, here's the bottom line of this video. Her secret wasn't her face, it wasn't her genetics, it wasn't her figure, and it certainly wasn't the drinking. It was a single lock of honey-colored hair falling over one sultry eye, a pair of heavy-lidded eyes that looked bored by the entirety of existence, and the unshakable private conviction that she was in on a joke the rest of the town wasn't clever enough to get. She weaponized smallness. She turned cool detachment into a religion, and when Hollywood got tired of her, she walked out of it with her middle finger up and never looked back. But if you'd like a bit more of an explanation, follow me. Welcome. I'm Kira, and this is your beauty blueprint. I've spent a whole week researching, watching, and editing all things Veronica Lake to bring to you her very essence and share the best of my findings. So, what exactly are the ingredients of this woman? A sailor father who died in a tanker explosion off the Delaware River when she was 9. A stage mother who sued her own daughter. A schizophrenia diagnosis. Her mother swore she'd been given at 15. Which, for the record, no real medical document has ever confirmed. A baby in Brooklyn named Constance Ockelman, who became, through sheer Hollywood alchemy, the woman with the most famous piece of hair of the 20th century. 4 husbands, each one worse than the last. A rumored affair with Aristotle Onassis. What a name. A framed, uncashed $1,000 check from Marlon Brando hanging on the wall of her Miami living room. A pilot's license she used to fly herself, solo, from LA to New York on the day her marriage fell apart. And later in this video, I promise, a full practical beauty breakdown of exactly how she built that iconic face and that iconic wave. Plus precisely how you can steal it for yourself without having to sit under a 40s perm machine for hours. Oh, and because I cannot help myself, I designed a Veronica Lake t-shirt just for us. A small tribute to the flirty peekaboo, and you'll find it linked in the description below if it tempts you. Now, settle in. Pour yourself something cold and a little dangerous. May I suggest a very dry gin martini, straight up, 2 olives, because that is exactly what she would be drinking if she were sitting here with us. If you want the full immersion, do add a plate of briny oysters on the side. Very 40s, very her. And let's start with understanding who Veronica Lake actually was, and how a small Brooklyn girl with baby-fine hair became cinema itself. Here's a little backstory. She was born Constance Frances Marie Ockelman on November 14th, 1922, in Brooklyn. A Scorpio sun, for anyone keeping score. And if you know Scorpio, you already know the exact flavor of this story. Intensity, secrecy, magnetism, a comfort with darkness, and a deep, almost cellular willingness to walk into her own destruction with her eyes wide open. Her father, Harry Ockelman, was a second mate on an oil tanker called the MS Bidwell. On a winter night in February 1932, the Bidwell exploded at a dock near Philadelphia while being cleaned after unloading 75,000 barrels of crude. 18 men died. Her father was only 33. His body was never recovered. Constance was just 9 years old. Right next year, her mother remarried a newspaper illustrator named Anthony Keene, and Constance took his name. The family moved to Saranac Lake in upstate New York, then down to Miami. And finally, when she was 16, west to Beverly Hills. Along the way, she was briefly shipped off to a Catholic boarding school in Montreal and reportedly expelled by one account for eating a meatball sandwich in class. You just cannot make this up. Her mother later claimed she'd been diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic at 15, a claim that has never been medically verified anywhere, and which probably says considerably more about her mother than about her, because her mother, lest we forget, went on to publicly sue her own daughter for non-support in 1948. Take the diagnosis with whatever seasoning you prefer. She wasn't discovered at Schwab's, if you know what I mean. She was discovered tagging along with a friend to an RKO casting call in 1939. And a director noticed how her hair kept falling naturally over her right eye. She was mortified. She thought she'd ruined her audition. The director, as it happens, was delighted. Her name at that moment was still Constance Keene, by the way. The name Veronica Lake was invented by a producer named Arthur Hornblow Jr., who said her eyes were calm and clear like a blue lake, and that Veronica expressed the classic features. She hated it, though. Veronica was her mother's real first name, and of all the names in the English language, she later wrote, they had to pick that one. She sat down and cried. Her first marriage, at 18, was to an art director named John Detley, 16 years her senior. She had a daughter, Elaine, in 1941. Then, in 1943, while shooting a film called The Hour Before the Dawn, she tripped over a lighting cable on set, hemorrhaged, and delivered a baby boy 2 months premature. He lived for 7 days. Her husband refused to come to the hospital. Katharine Hepburn, a woman she had never met in her life, showed up at her bedside in a mink coat and said, "Don't worry, Veronica, you'll get over it." And on her way out the door, Hepburn turned back and said, and this is one of my favorite things anyone has ever said to anyone, "Remember, Veronica, the Calla lilies will bloom again." That is how the 40s handled grief, apparently. A mink coat and a line from Katharine Hepburn's own best film.
The Calla lilies are in bloom again. The Calla lilies are in... I can't remember that. Calla lilies are in bloom again. The calla lilies are in bloom again.
Such a strange flower.
Such a strange flower. Such a strange flower. Such a strange flower.
Such a strange flower. Carried them on my wedding day.
Now I place them here in memory of something that has died. And now I place them here in memory of something that has died.
Place them here in memory of something that has died.
And now I place them here in memory of someone who is gone.
She divorced John Detley that same year. In 1944, she married a Hungarian director named André de Toth, who was famous for directing the 3D film House of Wax. Despite having only one eye and zero depth perception, which symbolically is almost too perfect for this story, they had 2 children. He was a reckless spender. She drank harder and harder, and somewhere in the middle of all of it, he started secretly turning down scripts that were being sent to her without telling her. By 1951, the IRS had seized their home. They filed for bankruptcy. She divorced him in 1952, left Los Angeles for New York, and later said, in her own words, "The hell with you, Hollywood. And fuck you too." I'm not editing that. She really said it. She had 2 more marriages after that. Both brief, both disasters. She just drank her way through the 50s. And then she woke up one morning in 1962 working as a cocktail waitress at the Martha Washington Hotel in Manhattan, tending bar under the name Connie de Toth, and the rest, as they say, is another story for another drink. And here's where it gets strange. Because when a New York reporter finally discovered her behind that bar, the rest of the country assumed she was drowning in shame. Strangers began sending her money, but she sent every dollar back, out of pride. And in the rest of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because the woman everyone else was busy mourning had a completely different story running inside her head, and it is, in my opinion, the most interesting thing about her. Stay with me. So, who was she, really? Who was the actual woman living inside that famous peekaboo wave? Here is the first thing you need to understand about Veronica Lake, and it is the thing almost everybody gets wrong. She was not a victim. She knew exactly what was happening the entire time. She wrote in her own autobiography in 1969, and I want you to hear this sentence loud and clear. Veronica Lake is a Hollywood creation. Hollywood is good at doing that sort of thing. Its proficiency at transforming little Connie Ockelman of Brooklyn into sultry, sensuous Veronica Lake was proved by the success of the venture. And the subject, me, was willing and in some small ways able. She is talking about Veronica Lake in the third person for a reason. She is the author, the subject, and the critic of her own persona simultaneously, and she is telling you, in plain English, exactly how the trick is done. If Camille Paglia had ever written about her, and for the record, Paglia weirdly never did, which I find strange, she would have seen in Veronica Lake the pure archetype of the self-invented woman. Not the bubbly blonde, not the icy Hitchcock blonde. A third thing, a kind of a sleepwalker, a woman watching her own performance from behind a veil of hair. The film noir historian Eddie Muller, who runs the Film Noir Foundation, put it better than I can. She had more insouciance than Lauren Bacall ever did, and nobody noticed, because everyone was too busy staring at the eye they couldn't see. She was described in her own lifetime as having dead eyes, and it was meant as a compliment. Shocking, wise eyes. The eyes of a woman being turned into a zombie who doesn't really care. A reporter once asked her how she felt about the label sex symbol, and she visibly flinched and said she actually preferred sex zombie, a phrase a book critic had coined about her just the year prior. That really names me properly. I was laughing at everybody in all of my portraits. I never took that stuff seriously, she told him. Can we stop here for a second? Because this is a woman who is, on camera, sultry as it gets, and she is internally laughing at us. The whole time. The whole performance. That is the Veronica Lake blueprint, and it is, in my honest opinion, some advanced emotional technology for a mere 22-year-old. She also refused to play the Hollywood game on any level. She wouldn't put her hands in the cement at Grauman's Chinese theater because, quote, she didn't feel like it. She once asked Eleanor Roosevelt, at a White House dinner, if she could please have a spoon, because she simply wanted a spoon, and Eleanor Roosevelt gave her one, and later said, "I was happy because you asked me for it." Most people wouldn't bother asking. They would take them and walk out. That is it. Other people pocket the silverware, and she just asked for it, shamelessly. And when Marlon Brando, a former lover of hers, because of course he was, read that she was working as a cocktail waitress, he sent her a check for $1,000. She never cashed it, but put it in a frame instead, then hung it in her Miami living room and pointed at it when friends came over. Tell me that isn't the coolest thing ever. And yes, she was, by almost every account, a genuinely difficult woman to work with. Frederick March called her a brainless little blonde sexpot, to which she responded by hiding a 40-pound weight under her costume, the day he had to carry her across a set. Pretty funny, if you ask me. Joel McCrea said life was too short for 2 films with Veronica Lake. Mitchell Layson said she fought with you all day long, and the French director René Clair, who is the kindest voice on record about her, said simply, she was a very gifted girl, but she didn't believe she was gifted. I think that kind of unlocks her. She was gifted, but didn't believe it. Her cool detachment was not a pose. It was a survival strategy. Now, for the part I actually came here to do, because I know half of you are here for the hair, and I am absolutely about to give you the hair. But first, a quick favor. If you're enjoying this, please like and subscribe. This is a brand new channel, so that would make all the difference here. It only takes a second for you, and I would be forever grateful. Okay, the films. Because before we get to the beauty, we need to see her move. There are 2 performances that, if you've never watched Veronica Lake before, are the entire picture in roughly 3 hours of screen time. The first is Sullivan's Travels, directed by Preston Sturges in 1941, in which she plays a character credited only as the girl. No name, just the girl. A broke, world-weary aspiring actress who's about to give up on Hollywood, and who buys a hobo a plate of breakfast with the last of her money. The hobo turns out to be a famous director played by Joel McCrea. Yes, the same Joel McCrea who couldn't stand her off camera, and she joins him on a road trip disguised as tramps, riding freight trains, sleeping in shelters, her famous hair tucked completely under a cap for most of the film. She was 6 months pregnant during filming and hadn't told anyone. Preston Sturges reportedly had to be physically restrained when he found out, and it is, hands down, her best performance on record. She is funny, she is dry, she is tired in exactly the way a woman at the end of her own story is tired. There is a scene where she sits on Joel McCrea's lap in a bathrobe, combing his hair, and you can practically hear every critic who ever called her wooden, choking quietly on their typewriter. The second film is This Gun for Hire, 1942. Her first noir with Alan Ladd. She plays Ellen Graham, a nightclub singer and stage magician, whose act is literally called Now You See It, Now You Don't, which is the most on-the-nose Veronica Lake metaphor ever made. She wears a gold lame gown designed by Edith Head. She gets taken hostage by a hitman with a tragic backstory, and instead of playing the femme fatale the way every other blonde in 1942 was playing it, she does something nobody else in the genre was doing at the time. She plays compassion. She humanizes the killer. She kisses him goodbye on the cheek, and he touches his face afterward like he's never been touched before in his life. And that is the single moment that launched Alan Ladd's entire career. Eddie Muller puts it perfectly. She was his ally, not his enemy. Lake was not the femme fatale, but the anti-femme fatale. She looked at the whole genre, raised one heavy-lidded eye, and said, "No thanks. I am going to be the noble-hearted center of this noir, and I'm going to do it in gold lame." She made a handful of other films, The Glass Key, The Blue Dahlia, I Married a Witch, and each one deserves its own breakdown. But for today, those 2 are enough. Sullivan's Travels to see her mind, This Gun for Hire to see her mask, and now, finally, the hair, and the face, and the how. Let's start with the hair, because it is truly the whole thing. Veronica Lake's hair was honey blonde, not platinum, not ice, warm, natural, and baby fine. Life magazine, in November 1941, literally sent a reporter to measure it. I am not making this up. They reported her strands were roughly 2.5 thousandths of an inch thick, 17 inches long in the front, 24 inches in the back, approximately 150,000 hairs total on her head. And this is my favorite detail. They noted that her hair catches fire fairly often when she is smoking. That is a sentence from a real published magazine. Her hair often caught fire, and she just kept smoking. The peekaboo wave itself was built on a deep side part on the left, with the hair swept over to the right, a soft S-curl falling seductively over the right eye, and the rest hanging long and loose, flowing over the shoulders and down the back. At Paramount, the look was maintained by her hairdresser, Earl Adams, and overseen by the legendary makeup department head, Wally Westmore, the same man who first noticed how her hair wanted to fall over her eye naturally. Every morning, according to Life, her hair was shampooed twice, treated with oil, and rinsed with vinegar. That's because, let me tell you, hair loves acidity. She brushed it with a boar bristle brush for 15 full minutes a day, and the actual set was done with wet pin curls, large rollers, duckbill clips, setting lotion, and a 40s hooded dryer. To recreate the look in the 21st century, here is your actual step-by-step. Start with clean, dry hair and a pea of glossing serum. Create a deep side part at the arch of your brow. Take a curling iron and curl the front sections toward your face at the root and away from your face at the ends. That is how you get the S-wave. Pin each curl flat with a bobby pin while it cools. This part is non-negotiable. If you skip the cooling step, the wave will fall out within the hour, and you will be annoyed with me personally. Once everything is cold, remove the pins and brush the whole thing through gently with a boar bristle brush until the curls relax into waves. Smooth, polished, flowing. Then use a comb and duckbill clips to pinch in the finger wave at the forehead. Finish with a drop of hair oil and a mist of hairspray. Let the heavy side fall over one eye. Smirk slightly. You are done. The makeup is almost aggressively simple compared to the hair, and that is the entire point. Her face was designed to let the hair do the dramatic heavy lifting. Her foundation was Max Factor, matte, set heavily with loose powder, and then brushed off until the finish looked porcelain. A cream blush underneath. Cream, not powder, for a rosy underglow. Her brows were neat, arched, and pencil defined, one shade darker than her hair. Her eyes were almost nothing. A single neutral matte shadow in brown or grey, a thin line along the upper lash line only, a moderate coat of black mascara, and then the lip. The lip is everything. A classic matte red in deep cherry, true red, or blue-based red. Applied with a brush in a rounded, full 40s hunter's bow shape. Modern equivalents to Chase Down, Mac Ruby Woo, Besame Red Velvet, NARS Dragon Girl, Charlotte Tilbury Red Carpet Red. The Lake principle is simple, and it still works. Porcelain skin, bold red lip, minimal eye, and let the hair carry the drama. That is the whole formula. For the clothes, this is where Edith Head comes in, the Oscar-winning Paramount costume designer who dressed her for nearly every film she made at the studio. Head's entire strategy was built around the fact that Lake was 4'11" and tiny. Floor-length gowns, unbroken vertical lines, body-conscious bias-cut silhouettes, long sleeves, open V necklines to elongate the torso, ruching at the bust, monochromatic color palettes, platform heels, long fur stoles, gloves to the elbow, and one statement brooch or necklace at the throat to draw the eye up. If you are petite, just steal this wardrobe formula. It still works. It will always work. It is, frankly, a great cheat code. Here is what I think she would tell us if she could. She would say the goal was never to just be liked. She would say the goal was to know every morning when you put on your face that the face is a mask and the mask is a tool and the tool is entirely separate from the woman holding it. She would say the worst thing a woman can do is take her own stardom seriously. And she would say, I think, based on a long career of saying exactly this, that walking away is sometimes the most stylish thing you will ever do. She died on July 7th, 1973, in a Vermont hospital, at 50 years old, of complications from alcoholism, with no visitors and no phone calls in her final days. Her ashes sat unclaimed in a funeral home for nearly 3 years because no one paid the bill. Eventually, her biographer, Donald Bain, paid the $200 himself, and her ashes were scattered, as she had wanted them, off the coast of Miami. None of her former husbands attended the memorial, and Eddie Muller, the noir historian who has studied her longer than anyone alive, said something I keep returning to. Despite every single thing, she had a wonderful attitude about herself and her career, and she was not, at any point, a woman looking for pity. The blueprint, in the end, is this: invent yourself on purpose. Wear the invention lightly. Smirk at the people who can't tell the difference between the mask and the woman, and when the game stops being fun, just walk. Let one lock of hair fall over one eye, and when the most powerful woman in the country offers you dinner, ask her for the spoon. I've queued up the next chapter for you here. I'll see you soon. Love, Kira. Now go create your own blueprint.